Good morning, everyone. My topic today is building successful teams. I am putting into the chat the handout that comes with this module. This is the first module of 6, I believe, that we will have to trade on. And now let me get my slides back up there. Do we have liftoff here? Okay, I see a head nod.
There you go. That's it.
Thank you. Session 1 is going to be developing successful teams. Here's what we are going to look at today. We're going to look at just looking at the responsibilities of the area director and the division directors, ways to identify members to join your specific councils and how you can offer support to your councils, developing your team charter and its benefits, building trust and setting expectations using the team charters, the 5 principles of motivation, and using conflict resolution techniques. As an area director, it serves as a liaison between the district and the clubs. I'll shrink this down a little bit. Area directors are expected to conduct visits twice a year within their respective areas, but you're not limited to 2. You just have to have 2 recorded visits, and there are some parameters around your visits, which I believe Patty will share. And these are so far our area directors who have signed on to take on these responsibilities. District director, or should say division, excuse me. The division directors, they are providing supervision and support to the area directors and the clubs to help fulfill the mission. And here you'll see listed our division directors. On this slide, there are 2 sections. You'll see the area director section and the division director section. These titles are what's recommended for your area council or your division council. You could have your area secretary if you find a volunteer for that. It includes your club presidents, your VPEs, your VPMs, and you may find that there's some old seasoned officers or seasoned Toastmasters in your clubs that you might want to also include on your council. The bottom 2, where it says area assistant program quality and area assistant club growth, those are optional as well. As an area director, I didn't have an opportunity to have that support, but the more people you can have supporting on your council, the better. And that goes for the division director side. Your division council will include all your area directors, and you also can have an assistant division director in both of these areas or just one. For your team, when developing your team, you want to make sure that you put together a team that is forward focused. You develop your values together. I mean, you can generate what you would like to have, but in order for full buy-in, you want everybody on the team to contribute to your team agreement. How your team was going to operate, how you're going to handle conflict, what happens if someone can't make a meeting, those protocols, how you're going to interact, who will take lead when, will you use an authoritative style or will you use more democratic style? Those are the things that you want to start looking at to put into your team agreement. Okay, there's a man named Brian Tuckman. He does the team development model. And I really like this model because it really does give a true depiction of how teams form. If you notice, I have the first 2, forming and storming. The forming stage is what we're doing right now. And this is what you'll need to do with your councils. And you want to start to put together those team agreements. Learn your strengths and weaknesses. There may be a place where everyone is starting to really say, I can do this, I can do that. This is the place where you want to start gathering that information so you can best use the people on your team. The storming is you're starting to work together. So this could be maybe 2 months from now, you notice that there might be some conflict that may arise, this is the place where you're going to learn how people deal with that conflict. Let's go to the next stage. So speaking of conflict, this comes directly from your handout that I submitted. This is one of the examples in there about conflict, how you want to resolve conflict. I'm just going to take a few seconds so you guys can read that. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay. This question is for everyone, but those that are on the call that are area directors, I would really like to hear, how would you approach resolving this conflict? And you can just come off and mute. Let's see if I can see everybody. So you have 4 club presidents, and 3 are always giving you the updates that you expect, and the 4th feels like you're basically micromanaging them. Does anyone have a way that they would get to an understanding with the 4th member? Who is on here? I see Mr. Freeman, Paula Williams, Michael.
Well, I'm not an area director, but somebody's got to talk. When I was an area director and had a problem with a president, what I did is I invited them out for lunch. Lunch is always cheaper than dinner. And I set up and I talked to them and I said, well, the reason why I'm asking all this information from you is I'm trying to make sure that your club gets the right support. I'm not trying to micromanage you, and see if sitting one-on-one away from the Toastmasters environment, we could get an understanding.
That's an excellent idea. What happened as a result of that?
Well, after we finished drinking at least 2 margaritas, that person got in a real good mood. And then they felt they know me because we shared personal details also. So instead of just becoming a title, I became a person. After that, I would call them on the phone instead of sending them an email to say, hey, what's going on? Are you doing this, that, and the other in your club? Because I found out that this person did not like emails. Okay. So after that, we had a better understanding and a better way to work together.
Thank you for sharing that. I like that you said you became a person. In our Toastmaster year, we have what seems like a lot of time, but it's actually not a lot of time to really form a great team. Just when you get rolling, it's like new Toastmaster year. So taking that time to really sit down and talk to the person and find out exactly their heart on the matter is super important. I would even go on to say, maybe possibly in this scenario, that somewhere there's a disconnect or a miscommunication on the expectations. It seems that the first 3 give the details exactly the way the area director asked for them. Possibly the president didn't know that there was a certain report or a way of reporting. So just finding that disconnect. Does anybody else have any comments on this? I will share with you that when it comes to communication, Rhonda always says that we are all volunteers. So you do have to find the method of communication with your team that works best for them.
So Charice, I just want to add on with what Rhonda said.
Sure.
That so my son has a learning disability. So for when I kind of like try to ask questions and stuff, he gets upset. So to go along with Rhonda said in a slightly different way, I start by saying, look, I'm asking these questions for my understanding and for me to help you. So even though I may not go out for lunch and have a few drinks, I do start off with the same trying to disarming tactics of saying, this is not about you, it's about me and my understanding and how I can help you.
That's excellent, because we want to be their support, and we want them to be able to be open to coming to us. So that's a great approach too. I think I saw Raul come off mute.
Yes, yes, Charice. I didn't want to speak before Karen, but one thing to add to what both Karen and Rhonda said is it's important to outline in a one-on-one conversation, either on coffee, lunch, or whatever medium, is to underscore the fact that we are here to serve them. We are not their bosses. So when people get the feeling that we are asking questions for eliciting some information, the perception is that we are trying to boss around, but that's absolutely not the case. In Toastmasters, as I have always mentioned right from day one, I have heard leaders mention, and I'm so fortunate about that, is we are here to serve. So anything that will help bridge the gap in understanding through effective communication with them one-on-one, trying to understand where they are coming from, what are their priorities as of today, and how we can align best towards a common goal, that always helps. So it's always the service mindset that has to come up.
Absolutely, well said. Align best and keep a service attitude. Anyone else? I'm gonna shift to the division director's conflict scenario.
I got,
Oh, go ahead.
you know, when I look at this, the first thing I would do first is do a self-assessment. I want to look at evaluate my interaction with that individual and look for areas where, number one, I may have seemed to be micromanaging, or if I have demonstrated in any way that I do lack confidence in this individual. Because number one, I got to first find out is if I have done something that has put that perspective out there. And if I find areas where I have done so, I think I'm going to be more prepared when I interact with this individual to deal with where I might have offended this individual in any way. And I'm going to use that to try to break the ice first and foremost, because I'm coming from where they're coming from. I think by doing that, I'm leveling the playing field and letting that person know, hey, I know I'm vulnerable. I know I make mistakes, and I know what I may have said and done may not have been the way you perceived it. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I just want to throw that in.
I'm glad you did, because a lot of times we do skip over ourselves and look at the other person as if they're the person in the wrong. Apologies go a long way. There are times when in your own work style, you could offend someone and you don't know it, and they're not going to say anything, but it's going to continue to rub them the wrong way. And that conversation really just saying, hey, am I doing that? Really does help. All good comments. Thank you. Okay, division directors. Here's your scenario. I'll give you a few minutes or seconds rather. I think there is a pathway that pertains, or a pathway project that pertains to something very similar to this, where you're managing like a difficult audience. I feel like someone who jumps in and contradicts everything you say would be one of those difficult places to be in, what steps can you all share with us that how you would try to resolve this type of conflict? Even if you haven't come up against this, what would you do?
For me, I haven't had this yet. Hopefully I do not have this situation, but what I would do is reach out to that area director and just have a conversation, hopefully, when they do have time, because it seems like they're busy when we have the meeting. Because I'm one of those, like, we need to resolve it now versus later and let it just keep going, because it's going to happen again the next time you have another meeting. So I would make sure we do this before the next meeting, just to make sure we're all on the same page and figure out what's going on. Because maybe it's something personal. Sometimes it's really, when people are the way they are, it's not you, it's something that they may have going on that you just don't know about.
I like that you said you'll definitely try to resolve it before the next meeting. And you just never know. Sometimes people are working and they're sick. People don't tend to tell you when they're having body issues or personal issues like that, because they don't want you to have pity on them. But then even if they're in pain, they still may act out of that. Yeah, so maybe if they share, that would be very helpful. Danielle, were you gonna say something else?
Well, what I wanted to say is this, that sometimes if somebody is being disruptive, that you temporarily stop the meeting and say, how can I help you? Is there something that you really need to share with the group so that we'll all understand the point of view that you're coming from? Because their point of view may be totally different than where we are. And giving them that opportunity to state, where they're coming from with their suggestions, things like that. Then whether you like them or not, you could say, oh my God, that is amazing. I had not looked at it from that view. And then say, I look forward to hearing even more as we continue with this discussion. Give them the chance to get out what they're trying to get out. And then they'll realize, okay, I've said what I needed to say. My point has been taken. And then you incorporate some of the things they said as you continue your presentation. Then they won't have any need to disrupt or interfere with the training from then on.
Absolutely. That is one of the strategies in that project. Just pause and allow for them to share. And sometimes it's pause and wait till the end. But keeping the meeting open and inviting them to share their opinion definitely shows that you are inclusive and you're not just full force on your own agenda. Anyone else? I haven't had this kind of scenario either, so I'm depending on you all to share your experiences here. Who am I looking at? Okay, moving on. But if anybody thinks of anything, sure, we can come back to that. But here are some ways that Toastmaster International suggests that we handle conflict. Definitely speak in private. I'm a person that says praise in public, and I'll say punish in private, but praise everyone publicly. But if you have to slay the hammer down or to smack down on someone, do it privately. Share responsibility. That is kind of self-explanatory. Presenting your viewpoint in an unemotional way is extremely important. Holding yourself together and not flying off the handle would really help to de-escalate the situation so that you can get to resolve. And as Rhonda said, you find those points of agreement and disagreement and find out how you can proceed to get an agreement. This says disagreement, but I think you need to find out how to proceed to an agreement. And in some cases, you will have to summarize your decision in writing and move forward. Sometimes it's just a phone call. Okay. The last three, norming, performing, and adjourning. Norming is you all are starting to adhere to the team agreement. Everybody's starting to feel their place. and you're taking on more tasks, you're taking on greater goals, and then you enter the performing stage. The performing stage is we are a well-oiled wheel and we're moving and shaking. Division director can give us a new task and we're on it. Area director give us a new task, we're on it. District director says, hey, I want your team to do, we can, because we at this point have established Charice may be more apt to jump in and do this because of her skill, and Sarah may do this, and Kenny may do this. We've learned that. And then the adjourning stage is at the end of our team task or at the end of the team. This is going to come towards the end of the year. There are tasks that you want to complete, meaning closing out any records, helping the team find new places to use their skills, but it's basically the breaking up of the group. And I like to use this model because we need to work fast through it because we only have a year. So you want to do your forming as soon as possible. Do some icebreakers to really get to know people beyond Toastmaster. And that way you can start doing smaller tasks. In a storming and norming phase, you may be delegating a little bit more. And then by the time you get to performing, you're facilitating. You can just throw the idea out there and your people should feel comfortable enough to say, I can take that on, or how should we do this? Or we should make those suggestions. Anybody got any questions about this model? I just love this model. Okay, these are the 5 TI principles of motivation. And I'm not gonna go too deep in them. They are in your handout, but you wanna understand motivation, focus on value, clarify your expectations. And just know that when you are clarifying expectations, they can change. So if halfway into the year, we've had to adapt or move and expectations you have of your council changes, you need to be very clear with that. Recognize your team. I can't stress this enough. Showboat them. Our clubs, I don't think get showboated enough. They do some great things on their own, and they may just need a little tug and pull so that you can say, hey, can I share this with the district director? Can I share this on the website? You guys did a great thing. Let's celebrate that. Find those moments. And then, of course, lead by example. So in short, this is what we talked about. We just reviewed your responsibilities, talked about your team. Creating your team agreement is important. And like I said, in the handout that you have, you can start writing down what you desire for the team. Using conflict resolution techniques. Now, what I didn't do was give you really any cookie cutter conflict resolution techniques because there's a lot of things that you can do. I just encourage you to use your best wisdom. And if you find that, I'm hitting a rock and a hard place, reach up, reach across, like ADs, reach across to each other, reach up to division directors and district to find out if there's any other techniques that you use, but really your best wisdom on resolving for the person that you're working with is going to come from learning that person. Building trust, setting expectation, and apply those principles. Is that chat comment for me? Okay. 1-year team. I just cannot stress enough how important it is that even though we're just a 1-year team, we can do a lot. Our goal this year is to try to become distinguished. And in order to do that, we all have to work together to give our clubs everything they need so that they can be the best club they can. And that's all I'm asking is that you provide your best support to the ADs, the DDs, so that they have their direction and can achieve their goals. And that might mean walking them through their CSP, helping an officer really grasp their role, whatever it is, just do your very best. And at this point, if you have any questions, I open the floor for those. Want to stop the sharing? Well, thank you for your time. Hopefully something in here will help you to lead your teams, your councils to the very maximized performing way.
I just want to add one little thing. Area directors, division directors, see if you can find someone to be your assistant. So when you get ready to do your club contest, you have someone to help. If you're an area director and there's a club that you can't exactly reach, if you have an assistant, that assistant can help you get that visit in. Any job we have is always easier when it's more than just one person trying to do everything. And this entire module was about getting help and getting assistance.